Chapter 18. Detective Tracy Richards sat in her car near a Chinese carryout close to the dead zone. She didn't notice someone coming up to her car from behind. Her head snapped around to the sound of her passenger door swinging open. Tracy snatched her weapon from the passenger seat. Kira plopped herself down and looked at the woman holding her weapon.
"Paranoid much?"
Kira asked, raising an eyebrow. Annoyed, Tracy placed her gun on the dashboard and looked at her companion.
"Do you understand the danger we are up against?" "Yeah, so,"
Kira replied. She stared intently at Kira.
"I'm not sure you really do,"
she muttered.
"Anytime you want out, just let me know. Trust me, I know the people we are up against."
Kira put her hand on her friend's leg.
"Are you okay?"
She blew out a long breath.
"I just know little Eric needs his mom around,"
she sighed. The young woman leaned back.
"I know he does. I can do this on my own,"
the detective replied.
"The night Eric was killed, he went to get me some ice cream. I was the reason Eric was standing on that street corner when that stray bullet hit him."
Kira looked out the window. Pure rage bubbled up.
"It might not have been King Po who pulled the trigger, but he is responsible for Eric's death,"
she said in anger. She turned back to Tracy.
"With or without you, I'm going to bring this bastard down."
The detective smiled.
"I see what my brother saw in you,"
she murmured. A tear ran down Kira's cheek.
"I miss Eric so much." "Me too."
They looked at each other. The night Kira called Tracy about Eric's death, Tracy was a run-of-the-mill Philadelphia police detective. The officer and her family were originally from Harm City, but moved to Philadelphia until their father died from cancer. Their mother moved them back because it was too painful to stay. When Tracy turned 18, she moved back to the city of brotherly love and followed in her father's footsteps by becoming a police officer.
"Maybe if I stayed here, Eric would still be alive,"
Tracy said.
"The only person to blame is King Po. I was only a few feet away from him yesterday."
Tracy gave Kira a concerned look.
"I know, but when we first came up with this plan of me joining the police force and you getting a job at the After Hours Club, I didn't know it would put you in this much danger. We need to get as much information on the organization as we can."
The young woman shrugged.
"You said you know someone in the DEA?"
Tracy nodded.
"If I can at least get a picture of him, maybe you could send it to your friend there,"
Kira said.
"Maybe they could start building a case against him."
The detective pivoted in her direction and nodded.
"As soon as they drop you off, I want you to call me."
This was the closest she has gotten to the ghost-like King Po in a year.
"Done,"
she responded. Kira opened the car. Tracy grabbed her arm and the woman turned back to her.
"Please be careful."
They embraced. The two had grown very close over the past year. Kira pulled away and vanished into the night. Chapter 19. At King Po's penthouse, Kira danced. She gyrated toward him and came as close to him as she has ever been. Kira smiled at how enamored he was by her, eyes wide with desire. As discreetly as she could, the young woman pulled out the miniature camera that Tracy had given her. She taped it to the inside of her bikini bottom, and as she danced a little closer, he moved to where a small gleam of light was shining in the darkness. She had a clear view of the king's face. Kira stopped directly in front of him and continued to move and shift with the music. She lifted the device and snapped a few images of the king of Harm City. A hand grabbed her wrist like an iron vice. Kira looked up to see the king's bodyguard hovering over her. Emerging from the shadows, it surprised Kira to see the well-dressed King Po was a small-framed older man who looked like any other guy on the street. He walked over to her, pulling the camera out of her hand and slowly inspecting it. He looked up at her with his cold brown eyes. A shiver went down Kira's spine as she stared into the eyes of the most powerful man in the city.
"Why were you taking pictures?" "I could get a lot of money for a picture of the man nobody's ever seen,"
she replied. King Po stared at her like he was trying to figure out a complex mathematical formula.
I don't believe you, he said. Who are you working for? Alonzo Green? The police? I told you why, Kira said, attitude lacing her voice.
Cypress squeezed her wrist, and Kira yelped in pain. Watch your tone, little girl, he growled. Lock her up in one of the extra rooms, King Po said, waving his hand dismissively. As Cypress pulled her away, Kira stated,
I have to go home to get my son. I can't stay here.
The king looked at her, devoid of emotion, as Cypress dragged her from the room.